Trust me, I wanted to play the song in that intro, but I knew if I tried it, even if it was a cover, it was going to get claimed. So this review might be a little bit long, because I'm going to try to be a bit more analytical with this. Because almost all these movies on this marathon are going to be positive. So before we even get into the review itself, I think I should do just a quick little overall summary of what this month is all about. After my computer resets itself. There we go. Now just pull up this. Alrighty. Yes, I know I've crapped on Disney a lot over the past few years, but they have deserved it for all their asinine decisions and rampant, uncontrolled greediness. However, believe me when I say this, I don't hate Disney. In fact, in its prime, Disney was pretty much always the gold standard for high-quality animated movies and have produced a ton of classics that I still cherish to this very day, as much as everyone else does for one reason or another. So this being the big 100th anniversary of the company, and with Wish right around the corner, I've decided to do something I haven't done in a long time to celebrate this momentous occasion. Praise Disney for all the great pieces of art that they've given us over the years that still leave me with very fond memories, even to this very day. However, since there's only 21 days until Wish's release, I'll unfortunately have to start at the tail end of the Renaissance era of Disney, and skip over the really old ones and the movies from like the start and middle of the Renaissance. So that means movies like Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, Cinderella, Black Cauldron, Sword in the Stone, Beauty and the Beast, the original Little Mermaid, Jungle Book, Dumbo, Pinocchio, and Robin Hood will all have to wait for another time. I'll discuss them briefly at the end of the marathon in a massive tier list video, but not in depth, because if this is successful enough, I will consider doing this again next year and discuss them then. Also, I'm only going through the Disney Animation Studios movies. So no Pixar, no Marvel, and no Star Wars. And since I'm trying to praise them instead of bash them, I've also decided to skip over most of the ones I thought were terrible or just flat out bad. So movies like Frozen and Ralph Breaks the Internet will be skipped over. However, some of these, like Treasure Planet for example, will be first-time watches, so that could end up changing after I see them. Alrighty, I think that about covers it. So, yeah, we have to start at the tail end of the Renaissance era, that's why we're starting with this one. And I cut out all the bad ones, so we will be jumping around a little bit. But anyways, what's up? What's happening? What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Animation Station, your number one suggestion for anything and everything animation. And today is a fun day, my friends. We start our Disney-Vember marathon, looking at a bunch of the classic, beloved, most well-known movies from Walt Disney Animation Studios' massive, massive catalog. And there is a lot to talk about with these, and I'm going to try to make these as analytical as possible. So, that means we're going full analysis on all these reviews. So these will probably be very long reviews, so grab some popcorn, grab a drink, and I hope you guys enjoy my thoughts. And let's start with Aladdin. This is a movie that I remember very fondly from my childhood. This and its two sequels were movies that I watched a ton growing up. And even today, yeah, this movie's still great. It's still Aladdin. It's still just as amazing as you remember it. It's smart, it's charming, it's funny, the animation's beautiful, the voice acting's fantastic, rest in peace Robin Williams. And let's just dive into it, starting of course with the plot synopsis. The film starts with a street peddler guiding through the streets of the fictional Arabian city of Agrabah, which is based mainly on the medieval city in the Middle East, the home of the 1001 Arabian Nights urban legend. And there are some inconsistencies in the time period. After trying to sell the viewers on his wares, he pulls out an old oil lamp, claiming it once changed the course of a young man's life, a young man who, like this lamp, was more than what he seemed, a diamond in the rough. The peddler then begins to tell the viewers a tale. Beginning on a dark night, the Sultan's vizier, Jafar, and his talking parrot and main assistant, Iago, rest in peace Gilbert Godfrey, meet with a thief named Gazim, who hands over half of a gold scarab beetle, of which Jafar has the second half of. Pulling them together, the beetle flies off before causing a giant tiger's head to rise from the sand, revealing the Cave of Wonders. Jafar summons Gazim to enter, instructing him to retrieve a lamp inside. However, upon approaching the tiger's head, it speaks that only one may enter, one whose worth lies far within, the diamond in the rough. Gazim still attempts to enter upon Jafar's orders, but upon entering the tiger's mouth, it bites down on the thief, closing out the entryway before instructing Jafar again to seek out the diamond in the rough it was referring to. It is then that Jafar realizes he needs to find this diamond in the rough in order to enter the cave. Jafar seeks to become Sultan himself and become the new ruler of Agrabah. You know, your stereotypical villain motivation. Power. The next day on the streets of Agrabah, a street urchin named Aladdin is struggling to steal a loaf of bread, along with his pet monkey, Abu. After outwitting the palace guards, led by their captain Razul, the two settle down to eat their spoils, but not before having a cheesy chase sequence with an absolutely earworm catchy song. Like, seriously, that song's so good. The two settle down to eat their spoils, but are put off from satisfying their stomachs by a couple of hungry kids. Aladdin and Abu give the two their bread, but are then sidetracked when a royal prince marches through the streets and claims Aladdin to be nothing more than a worthless street rat. Aladdin and Abu then return to their abode, with Aladdin promising his friend that someday things will be better, and people will see him for what he really is instead of as a public menace. The Sultan, meanwhile, is having problems with finding a prince for his daughter, Princess Jasmine, to marry, especially when the last suitor, whom is the same one who insulted Aladdin earlier, leaves after Jasmine's pet tiger Raja bites into his pants. The Sultan talks to Jasmine, who claims she is tired of living her life being cooped up behind walls. So this is kind of almost like a Romeo and Juliet kind of story. The Sultan goes to consult his advisor Jafar. By mesmerizing him with his magical snake staff, Jafar convinces the Sultan that Jafar needs the Sultan's blue diamond ring to find Jasmine a husband. Jafar actually needs this ring to discover the identity of the diamond in the rough. Pretty much telling the audience, without telling the actual characters in the movie, that this dude's evil and he's to be disliked. Jasmine, who does not want to be married off, decides to run away disguised as a peasant girl. However, her act of giving an apple to a hungry little boy lands her in trouble with the street merchant until Aladdin intervenes and leads Jasmine away just in time before she can lose a hand as payment for the fruit. Meanwhile, Jafar uses the diamond blue ring of the Sultan and consults the sands of time and discovers the identity of the diamond in the rough, which of course is the main protagonist, Aladdin. Aladdin is retreated with Jasmine to his and Abu's place, and she is rather taken by his kindness. However, Aladdin is suddenly set upon by the royal guards. It is then that Jasmine reveals herself to them, demanding Aladdin be released. However, Razul claims he is acting under orders from Jafar, so Jasmine will need to speak with him to get Razul to release Aladdin. When Jasmine confronts Jafar, he lies to her by saying he had already been executed for kidnapping the princess. As Jasmine runs to the water fountain after confronting Jafar, she begins weeping over Aladdin's loss, and her pet tiger Raja comforts her. In actuality, Aladdin has been imprisoned in the royal dungeon. Abu manages to free Aladdin, but are then met within the dungeon by an old prisoner, in reality, Jafar and Iago disguised, who shows Aladdin a hidden passageway out of the dungeon to free and take him to the Cave of Wonders. At the entrance, Jafar, the super old guy, I don't remember the dude's name, Jafar informs Aladdin that if he brings back the lamp, he will be rewarded. The cave's tiger-shaped head allows Aladdin to enter since he's the diamond in the rough, but he is instructed to touch only the lamp and nothing else. Aladdin and Abu venture deep into the cavern where they encounter a magic carpet that then leads them to the lamp's location. Aladdin successfully retrieves the lamp, but Abu violates the law the cave guardian imposed and seizes a large ruby. Real smart there. enraging the Tiger Guardian, causing the cave to begin to collapse around them. Using the magic carpet, Aladdin and Abu manage to get to the entrance to the cave, where the disguised Jafar pleads for Aladdin to give him the lamp. Aladdin does so, and Jafar then reveals a dagger intending to kill him. Luckily, Abu bites Jafar's arm, and Aladdin and Abu both fall back into the cavern as the giant tiger's head disappears under the sand. Aladdin, Abu, and Carpet, as they now call it, are trapped in the Cave of Wonders. Jafar then laughingly reaches for the lamp, only to find it is gone because Abu stole it back. Oh, sweet karma. In the palace, a weeping Jasmine is comforted by the Sultan, her father, and informs him that Jafar has done something terrible. The Sultan comforts Jasmine and gets her to tell him what happened. When Jafar comes back, the Sultan confronts him for having an innocent person beheaded and informs him that he must discuss sentencing prisoners with him from now on. Deep within the cave, Aladdin begins to examine the lamp, finding a worn-out inscription on the side of it. Aladdin discovers that the lamp is home to a wisecracking blue genie simply named, well, Genie, who will grant him any 3 wishes, excluding wishes to force a person to fall in love, kill someone, bring someone back from the dead, or give his master extra wishes. Where'd I put him? There he is. You know, this Genie. Yeah, I think I'll just hold him for the rest of the review, why not? Aladdin tricks Genie into getting them out of the cave without technically wishing for him to do so. Once out of the cave and in a small oasis, Aladdin gets to know Genie and asks him what he would wish for if he had the chance. Genie says he would wish for freedom, as he is a prisoner of the lamp, but that can only be granted if his master is benevolent enough to free him with a wish. Aladdin promises to set Genie free with his last wish. Aladdin, who has fallen in love with Jasmine, is disappointed that he could not wish to make her fall in love with him. However, the law states that only a prince can marry the princess, so he wishes to become a prince instead. Therefore, as his first wish, Genie turns Aladdin into a fabulously rich prince, and then Abu is transformed into a giant purple elephant, and becomes Aladdin's mount. I think he might have gotten the short end of the stick there. While Genie then goes further to make Aladdin's entrance into the palace one that will impress all of Agrabah. Meanwhile, Jafar, who is worried that Jasmine might have him beheaded as punishment for supposedly having Aladdin executed, comes up with the idea to convince the Sultan to let him become her husband with the help of Iago. Yeah, he's pretty maniacal, but you can't say he isn't smart. He later tries to mesmerize the Sultan into granting this request with his staff. However, his plans are interrupted when a large and noisy royal procession enters the kingdom, proclaiming the arrival of Prince Ali Ababwa, aka Aladdin in his new prince persona. The procession is huge, with riches, exotic animals, hundreds of servants, Aladdin himself, and of course another catchy song. Aladdin's entourage bounds into the palace, impressing the Sultan. Jafar appears suspicious and cold towards the new suitor. Aladdin is taken to Jasmine, who is unimpressed and rebuffs Aladdin's charm, thinking him to be another arrogant prince like the previous ones. However, when Aladdin removes his turban to shoo away Raja, Jasmine is reminded of the street rat she met in the marketplace. You know, not knowing it's the same guy. Aladdin tries to gain Jasmine's interest again by telling her how rich and powerful he is, but she remains steadfastly ambivalent. Hope I'm saying that right. Aladdin decides to leave Jasmine and steps off on his... leave Jasmine and steps off on his magic carpet. Jasmine chooses instead to ride with him. Afterwards, the carpet takes them to China, and Jasmine tricks Aladdin into admitting he's the street rat. Naturally wishing to impress her, Aladdin instead lies to her by convincing her that he really is a prince and had often pretended to be a commoner to escape the restrictions of palace life. Much like what Jasmine did, she relates to. Aladdin brings Jasmine back to the palace and the two of them share their first kiss. You know, with that classic Whole New World song that you all know, of course. Jafar is afraid that Prince Abubu, as he incorrectly calls him, may win Jasmine over, ruining his own scheme to marry her, but orders Aladdin out of the way. He orders Rasul and the guards to capture and kidnap Aladdin. The guards end up having Aladdin gagged with a white handkerchief over his mouth and tied up in metal manacles on his ankles and on his wrists behind his back. Which is not a problem, as a result the chief guard is plagued with a lust for killing. He informs him that he has worn out his welcome and a guard clubs Aladdin unconscious, then drops Aladdin over a cliff into the sea. In other words, Aladdin gets the concrete boots. Yeah, for a kid's movie, that's pretty dark. They have attached to his ankles a large metal ball and chain so that a tied up and gagged Aladdin is underwater and sinks fast. He hits the bottom and his turban floats down. The lamp tumbles out and he begins to struggle towards it, which is difficult as the ball and chain attached to his ankles pulls him back, but passes out from the lack of oxygen before he can reach it. Aladdin, tied up and gagged, slides down towards the lamp while underwater and rolls over, causing it to rub against his fingers by pure chance. Genie appears, although apparently interrupted in the midst of taking a bath, and rescues Aladdin, using up his second wish. Genie unties and ungags Aladdin and takes him back from the sea and back to dry land. A soaking wet Aladdin thanks Genie for saving his life as his second wish. Aladdin and Genie return to the palace, and Aladdin confronts Jafar over having him almost killed. Jafar uses his cobra staff to try and brainwash the Sultan into believing Aladdin is lying, but seeing what he's doing, Aladdin grabs the staff and shatters it. He then shows the Sultan that Jafar has been controlling him and plotting against him the whole time. The Sultan calls for the guards to arrest Jafar, but Jafar manages to escape, and before doing so, witnesses the lamp in Aladdin's possession. The Sultan is convinced that his troubles are over as his daughter has finally chosen a suitor, and dubs Aladdin as the heir to his throne. However, unbeknownst to both, Aladdin, though casually happy, is suddenly struck with guilt, feeling unworthy of such an honor as well as a future with Jasmine because of the fact that he lied to her, showing that he still has his moral compass, which is admirable and it makes you root for him. The next day, Aladdin expresses his frustrations to Genie and considers going back on his promise to free the latter out of fear of losing Jasmine if the truth is revealed and uncertainty of keeping up the facade without Genie's help. Feeling betrayed, a heartbroken Genie goes back inside the lamp, but not before pointing out how much Aladdin has lied to get to where he is. Chastened, especially after taking his anger at Genie out on a boo and carpet, on accident, Aladdin decides to tell Jasmine the whole truth. Unfortunately, Aladdin leaves the lamp in his chamber, and Jafar summons Iago to steal it. With the lamp in hand, Jafar becomes Genie's next master, giving him 3 wishes. His first wish is to become Sultan, naturally. When the former Sultan and Jasmine refuse to bow to him, he wishes to be the world's most powerful sorcerer. Now Jafar forces them to bow. Jafar then uses his magic to expose Aladdin and then banish him with a makeshift rocket to the ends of the earth in one of the palace towers. The ends of the earth appear to be Antarctica, the mountains of Austria, the Arctic, or possibly the Himalayas. It's never really clear. Luckily, Abu and Carpet are banished with him, and Aladdin is able to fly back to Agrabah, intent on reclaiming the lamp, stopping Jafar, and fixing his mistakes. Meanwhile, Jafar, who is angry that Jasmine does not wish to become his queen, makes a wish for Genie to cause her to fall in love with him, so he can make her his queen. Genie tries to inform him that he could not grant that wish, but that only frustrates Jafar. Jasmine, who witnesses Aladdin sneaking back into the palace, pretends that the wish has been granted, much to Genie's surprise, in order to distract Jafar. She even goes so far as to kiss him, causing Aladdin, Abu, the Genie, and even Iago to nearly vomit. At first it seems to be working. Jafar, however, looks at Aladdin's reflection in Jasmine's crown, made from her shackles via a performance of sorcery once again, and realizing he'd been tricked, confronts him before he can reach the lamp. After trapping Jasmine in an hourglass, turning Abu into a wind-up monkey, and unraveling Carpet into nothing more than string, all of whom had attempted to retrieve the lamp, Jafar eventually turns himself into a giant cobra and fights Aladdin. When Aladdin appeared to be defeated, Jafar informs Aladdin he was a fool for thinking he could defeat the most powerful being on Earth. Aladdin informs Jafar he is not the most powerful being on Earth, and that honor belongs to Genie, since he gave Jafar his power in the first place and can therefore take Jafar's power away. Realizing what Aladdin is saying, Jafar decides to use his final wish to become the most powerful genie in the world. As Aladdin frees Jasmine from the hourglass and revives her, Jafar is at first convinced that his new powers will allow him to rule the universe. But he realizes too late that Aladdin tricked him, since being a genie comes with a price. Jafar is suddenly shackled and sucked into a new lamp, all black, created by his wish, and is trapped along with Iago, who tries to flee, but of course is dragged in with him. Not long after, Genie throws the lamp across Agrabah to the desert, while also making a baseball joke, left to be banished to the Cave of Wonders for 100,000 years. Of course, since Aladdin is no longer a prince, he is not eligible to marry Jasmine. Genie, however, insists that Aladdin use his final wish to make him a prince again, but nevertheless he keeps his promise and uses his final wish for Genie's freedom. When all seems lost for Aladdin and Jasmine, the Sultan decides that between his loyalty to Genie and his courage in defeating Jafar, Aladdin has proven his worth. The Sultan, therefore, changes the law so that his daughter shall marry whomever she deems worthy, meaning Aladdin and Jasmine can be married. Jasmine runs to Aladdin and chooses him. Genie flies away to see the world while Aladdin and Jasmine begin their new life together. At night, while the fireworks begin exploding, Aladdin and Jasmine share another kiss and fly off the carpet near the moon. As the end writes in the sky, the moon laughs and turns around to show that it was really Genie. Genie then pulls up the scene and says, "Made you look," ending the film on a comical note. Yeah, quite the lengthy little plot synopsis, huh? Definitely lengthier than the Dragon Ball reviews, that's for sure. But yeah, the story overall is great. It's classic Disney, but also has a nice Arabian feel to it, and a whole vibe, and then the characters are great. Like, it's freaking Aladdin. It's the classic Aladdin. And of course, who doesn't love this? Who doesn't love this guy? Who doesn't love the Genie? Like, this is the most iconic character from this movie, and there's a reason he's an icon. And of course, Jasmine being one of the Disney princesses. So, yeah, that's the whole story and plot to Aladdin. It's fantastic. It's great. It has great moral messages. It has some pretty dark adult moments. And it's overall really fun to watch unfold. So, yeah, the story is fantastic. Next up, we move on to our voice cast, which has more than a few names you may or may not recognize. First up, we have Scott Weinger, sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, as the voice of Aladdin, and he does an amazing job. Then we have Brad Kane as the singing voice of Aladdin. He does a great job. Of course, Robin Williams as the Genie. I mean, may he rest in peace, but this is arguably the best performance of his entire career. And considering his career, that's saying something. And it turns out he was also the voice of the peddler, something that doesn't really get brought up often. And then the singing voice of the peddler who sings the Arabian Nights song is Bruce Adler. Then you have Linda Larkin as the voice of Jasmine. Does an amazing job taking a character that would otherwise be pretty flat and generic, and ends up making her very likable and very memorable. And then Lea Salonga is Jasmine's singing voice, and does a great job. Then we have Jonathan Freeman as Jafar, arguably one of the best Disney villains ever. Frank Welker, yes, good old Fred himself, as Abu Raja, and the voice of the Tiger Head, the Cave of Wonders. The late Gilbert Godfrey as Iago is hilarious. Douglas Seal is the voice of the Sultan. Yes, the guy that plays Santa Claus in Ernest Saves Christmas is the voice of the Sultan. May he rest in peace. Jim Cummings is the voice of Farouk and Razul. And if you guys don't know who that is the usual, most well-known voice of Winnie the Pooh, who, don't worry, we'll talk about later in this marathon, don't worry. Corey Burton is the voice of the camel, the fish merchant, the necklace merchant, Prince Ahmed, and Sheep. He does pretty good. Charlie Adder as Gazim is really good. Jack Angel, or Angle, sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, as Arab. Debbie Derryberry as the Harem girl is good, even though it's a very small role. Mickey McGowan as the vendor is great. Sherry Lynn as the fat woman with red lipstick from the Prince Ababwa song is hilarious and really good. And then Phil Proctor is the voice of all the other guards. And then we have the background voices, which include Philip Clark, Jennifer Darling, Bruce Gooch, hope I'm pronouncing that right, Chuck McCann, Michael Bell, Bob Bergen, the late, great Mary Kay Bergman, may she rest in peace. Good old Rocco himself, Carlos Alazraqui. Jess Harnell, Mona Marshall, Will Ryan, Jeff Bennett, Jerry Hauser, Trez McNeil, Danny Mann, April Winchell, Lorraine Newman, Jennifer Hale, S. Scott Bullock, Vera Lockwood, Patrick Penny, and Jim Ward. Everyone on the voice cast does an amazing job here. There's not one that really stands out as bad or not as amazing. Like, some are obviously better than others. I definitely think that Aladdin and Genie are the standouts here, but everyone does a great job no matter how small their role is. And then we have the film. Alright, now we get to talk about the songs. They were written by Alan Menken, Disney legend, and Howard Ashman. And then we have, how many songs do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 8 songs here. Well, 10 if you count. No, 9 if you count A Whole New World. And no, 10 if you include Friend Like Me. Well, let's start with A Whole New World. That's obviously the most popular song from this movie. It's a great song. Like, it is a beautiful song, classic Disney, and pretty much everything that can be said about it has already been said. It's a beautiful track, arguably one of the best in all of Disney. Then, of course, you have the Genie song, Friend Like Me, which is one of the most upbeat, positive song and goofy songs you will ever hear in a movie. Proud of Your Boy is a really, really good one, too. Call Me a Princess is pretty good. Why Me is pretty good. Babcock, Omar, Aladdin, Kasim is pretty good. Humiliate the Boy is... Well, it was originally supposed to be in the movie, but apparently it was too cruel and got cut. Even though in the DVD version that I have, Jafar does sing a song. High Adventure is good, To Be Free is good, and You Count on Me, which is also good. Let's talk, and then we gotta talk about the reception, because I mean, it's Disney, we gotta talk about it. The review aggregator website Rotten Tomatoes reported that 95% of critics gave the film a positive review based on a sample of 73 reviews, with an average rating of 8.14 out of 10. The site's consensus reads, a highly entertaining entry in Disney's Renaissance era, Aladdin is beautifully drawn with near-classic songs and a cast of scene-stealing characters. On Metacritic, the film has weighed average score of 86 out of 100 based on 25 critics, indicating universal acclaim. Audiences polled by CinemaScore gave the film a rare A+. I can see why. It is an amazing, iconic movie. But the one problem it has a bit is its pacing, because sometimes it's really well done, nice and slow burn, and then sometimes, like with the third act specifically, it does feel a bit rushed. Like, you have the whole Lyra revealed thing, he gets kicked off to wherever the ends of the earth is in this movie, and then you have Jafar having his villain moment, and then you have Aladdin sneaking back in, pretty much making that whole thing pointless. Sorry about that. But yeah, I mean, it's Aladdin. What more can I really say about it? It's fun, it's charming, it has great messages, it has beautiful 2D animation. Like, the pacing is its one annoying problem. Most of the time it's really consistent, but in like the third act, it gets way too fast, and it feels like it was rushed a little bit. Not enough to outright damage the experience, but just a little bit. And that can be a little bit jarring, especially watching it now with a more critical mindset. Whereas with back then, you know, I was just a stupid kid, so. But, yeah, whether you're an adult or a kid or somewhere in between, Aladdin is a classic. There's no way around it. It is an amazing film. It's only gotten better with age, and it's probably going to keep getting better for many, many years to come. Fun, charming, dark, adult, and a lot of fun. And not to mention one of the most adorable love stories in any movie. So, yeah. I think that about covers it. So, with all that said, and with my best bud Genie in hand, I'm going to be giving this classic awesome movie known as the original classic 1992 Walt Disney's Aladdin a high 8 out of 10. High 8 out of 10. It is a great movie. It's still great all these years later. And if it weren't for the pacing being a little bit inconsistent and a few characters feeling, you know, like they don't really belong there, I would definitely give this movie higher marks. But as it is, it's still a fantastic movie full of great songs, great characters, great writing, and just all the classic Disney stuff that you love. So, definitely check this one out. It is an absolute must-see. But considering its iconicity, I reckon you probably already have. So, yep. That's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Jad Small of Animation Station, and I will see you guys next time when we dive into another classic, awesome, amazing movie of the Disney Renaissance era with The Lion King. See you next time.